We got big Divinity news this past weekend. For weeks, Divinity existed as an idea, a trailer, a name, a promise. And then the questions started stacking up. What kind of game is this really? How different is it from Original Sin? What does Larian mean when they say next level? And, looming over everything, what role is AI actually going to play in its development? This week, Larian finally stopped letting speculation run wild. They held the first major Divinity AMA, Ask Me Anything. And while it didn't give us gameplay footage or release dates, it may have told us more about this game than the reveal trailer ever did. So first, why does this AMA even matter? Well, it wasn't a victory lap, it was damage control. After the AI controversy, they made a textbook PR movement. They gave it a couple weeks to cool down, and then they reevaluated what they needed to do to make this game sell. They had expectation management, and whether intentionally or not, they released a mission statement. After Baldur's Gate 3, Larian isn't just another RPG studio. They're a standard setter, which means every decision they make now gets examined under a microscope. The golden child of gaming, if you will. So instead of flashy reveals, this AMA focused on everything far more important, which was clarity. And let's start off with the most heated topic, AI. AI dominated the AMA because after earlier comments sparked backlash, Larian drew a much harder line this time. They confirmed that there will be no generative AI used for writing. They confirmed no generative AI will be used for concept art, and no AI generated content will ship in Divinity. It wasn't just vague reassurance, but a clear boundary that we could expect them to uphold. Internally, Larian admitted that they experiment with AI tools during early ideation, but the AMA made it clear those experiments didn't meet their standards and they're stepping away from AI in the creative pipeline entirely. So the key takeaway is that they said it wasn't about PR, that it was about trust. And if you ask me, it's probably a little bit of both, but I'm a Larian glazer, so you know what, we'll go with what they said. Larian understands that Divinity can't just be good, it has to feel handmade, because that's what the players associate with their games. And if they step away from that, they could lose the trust of the industry. And that's money on the table for a studio that doesn't have outside investors. So, does this mean that there will be no AI used? No, it doesn't. It just means that nothing creative on the creative side is what they're saying. There will be no AI use. As far as the back end, maybe accelerating some processes like grunt work, they did not say they're not going to use AI. So, there probably will be some machine learning or AI. Yes, those are two different things if you want to get technical, but machine learning is definitely going to be in it. Everyone uses machine learning. They've been using it for years. They might be introducing some AI to get around the back-end processes, make the grunt work more expendable, but there will be nothing in creative, so there'll theoretically be no placeholder dialogue or no looking up or using, as they said previously, generated AI content like concept art, like they were saying they might use it for before, as kind of a way to look up concepts and then have their concept artists change it to what they're envisioning. And with that controversy out of the way, let's take a look at something that I think we all expected, and that was co-op confirmed. It's another major confirmation, to be honest, because Divinity will have co-op at launch. That alone reassures a lot of fans, but the details matter. Larian explained that the number of co-op players depends on the final party size, which is still being finalized. That means co-op is built into the core design, and it's not an afterthought or post-launch feature, but the scale is still flexible. Now, if you look at the previous games they've made, the most likely hit is that 4 players will be your party size, so 4-player co-op. But you never know. Earlier games, they've had 2. It won't be single player, obviously, because you're going to have that co-op element. Other CRPG games sometimes have parties of 6, so we'll have to wait and see, but my most likely guess is a party size of 4, so 4-player co-op at launch. Another great confirmation, and not really a surprisingly one based on their track record, is that they will have mod support. It may not come out on launch, but hopefully it'll come out faster than it did for BG3. This mod support is a way that the community could extend co-op limits beyond what the base game supports, and that's the classic Larian energy. They're designing a system and trusting players to push it farther. They also said they are looking at previous mods that expand on the BG3 and original Sin 2 to see what they can reasonably and feasibly implement at this new launch of a game. Specifically, they said they were looking at a lot of the UI improvements and character customization improvements, so we could see more character customization or maybe an introduction to sliders potentially. I'm not a huge fan of sliders because I don't really care too much to figure out the perfect face, but I love the face customizations, and BG3 had a lot of customizations, just not enough for fans, especially when it came to customizing how their outfits looked. I think were a lot of mods based on outfits and giving more character customization through the face, because your main differentiation from other characters was just kind of hair and tattoos, if not the race, of course. I think with these mods in mind, we might be able to see more in the next game. And the UI design, I mean, I don't know how, like, UI design is so important for CRPGs. I don't know how exactly you make it so everyone is happy. You just have to have so much on the screen for a CRPG. So maybe they'll take a look at those UI mods. I've never used any, so I don't know what the hubbub is about. I kind of went through the UI just fine, but I'm also a big fan of CRPG games. So if they're trying to reach more people, maybe having more customization with the UI, but they had a lot of that BG3. I'll have to take a look at these mods because apparently people and fans love them. So although those two confirmations were massive, they were no surprise. The one that did surprise me was the gameplay. Larian confirmed that Divinity is not just iterating on original Sin 2, it's actively moving away from some of its more controversial systems. Most notably, the physical and magical armor system from original Sin 2 is gone, and that's huge. I personally loved the armor system. I think it did kind of pigeonhole your party though. Sometimes it was better just to go all in on magical, all in on armor, and split damage didn't really work. It made you target certain enemies, which was cool, but it just didn't feel balanced. So I understand why a lot of people didn't like it, but it was a system that defined combat pacing in original Sin 2. And like I said, it wasn't always good, but the abilities often felt locked behind armor depletion instead of tactical creativity is some of the context why people didn't like it. The AMA strongly suggested that Divinity's combat is being redesigned to encourage early use of abilities instead of holding some of your knockdown abilities after some auto attacks, reduce waiting turns, so any millisecond they can shave off the turn timer they want to do, and the reward interaction over optimization. In other words, fewer spreadsheets, more problem solving in gameplay terms. This aligns perfectly with what Larian learned from BG3, where flexibility, improvisation, and player logic mattered more than the rigid systems. They also hinted that they might be changing the economic system altogether, and what I mean by that is the economics of their turns. So the action point system might be changed, which I love the action point system. I think it was great to have different abilities, take different actions. Your movement was in there. So I don't know how they're going to change that. I liked it better than the BG3 system personally, although BG3 had better role playing. It was easier to see the darkness in BG3. So if they can combine the two, I think they'll have a game that's another record defining moment. All that to say that they're going to have a brand new combat system. It's still going to be turn-based. That is already confirmed, like I said in my last Divinity video. But what does this suggest? Well, we're probably going to have new rules, new pacing, and new assumptions about how players approach fights, as well as new ground effects, probably something closer to BG3 rather than original Sin 2. A lot of people didn't like how, you'd have 2 miles of fire spread out on some of the combat, and there's like nothing you can do to stop it unless you just had a character that was gonna run like rain or something, right? Or blood rain, but then you couldn't use the puddles. Yeah, it was a big problem. But it's not Divinity Original Sin 3, okay? This is Divinity, a brand new game in the series, and honestly, the lore implications could be anywhere in the timeline, but I'm imagining past Original Sin 2. This is Larian taking everything they've learned over a decade and asking, what if we rebuilt the foundation instead of stacking upon it with their probably, I think, fifth iteration of their Divinity, what is it called? Engine, their Divinity engine. Another thing that I saw confirmed but seems to have went quietly under the radar was Borislav Bobby Slavov is returning as the composer. That matters more than it sounds like it should. And music in Larian games isn't background noise. It's kind of like the emotional glue of the game. It really sets the tone before the images come in. In Baldur's Gate 3, they had a lot of good images, but Original Sin 2, it was basically the music that kind of set the tone, because they just didn't have the visuals to really represent the dark tones of Original Sin 2. Original Sin 2 is really dark. Original Sin is really dark. The Divinity universe is really dark. It was just kind of hard to see that with the visuals they were using previously. So music is massive in Larian games. His return suggests that even as system changes, the tone should remain the same. They also reaffirm that Divinity connects to past lore, but without requiring homework. So just play Original Sin 2 and you should be fine, or Original Sin. And the rest of the games you probably don't have to touch. I imagine they're going to keep that canon, although that's the hardest way to do it because the lore doesn't always add up, so to speak. I think they're going to retcon some, but that's just my personal guess. That's not confirmed. That balance between legacy and accessibility is something that Larian has gotten quite good at. So, well, what didn't they say in the AMA? Okay, the silence. There is no release date. No confirmed platforms. A lot of people are asking questions about platforms like the Switch 2 to bring it onto handheld or the Steam Deck. Nothing confirmed. They said they're going to look at it all. I would imagine PC is probably the only thing 100% confirmed, and that the rest of it might come later, hopefully, or maybe not at all, depending on the specs of the console and if it can handle their new game. Remember, their game isn't even close to being done, so the hardware they're shooting for might not be able to handle it. It's something we'll have to look towards. There are no story specifics, although they said it will connect to the most recent games, or that you don't have to do that extra homework to know the lore. Honestly, it's probably standalone. You can probably play it and that would be fine with some nods to past lore, but nothing has been confirmed on the story. And finally, although we speculated earlier in this video, no party sizes are confirmed yet, so just don't hold your breath. My guess was 4, but we'll see how that goes. Honestly, this restraint is intentional too, because they're just not sure yet creatively what they can implement, I'm sure, with this new engine of theirs and how it's going to affect with their new story and visuals and the new combat system all put together. They have to find a good balance, and stuff like party size is just indicative of what they can do and what they can balance, and then they'll set the limit, I'm sure. So what was this AMA really about? It wasn't exactly about selling the game. It was about stabilizing the expectations and making sure that when Divinity finally shows gameplay, the conversation is about design and not distrust. It was about a PR nightmare that was AI and taking a clear stance on it. This AMA tells us one thing very clearly. Divinity isn't trying to ride the waves of Baldur's Gate 3. It's trying to justify existing after it. And they gotta prove that to us. They backed out of Baldur's Gate 4, which was supposed to be a smaller game compared, or what they said, a smaller game, because they wanted to get to Divinity. Apparently, something behind the scenes wasn't right for them, and they decided, hey, or maybe it was too good. They decided, hey, we can go straight to Divinity. This is the game we want to make. So they're trying to justify that to the fans. So we had Divinity AMA that didn't give us a spectacle. It gave us intent. It was a studio drawing lines and admitting what didn't work. They explain what they're trying to build before the hype machine takes over, and this AMA was essentially a blueprint, and now we just have to wait and see if Larian can build it. Appreciate y'all for staying tuned to the end. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.